Hi, I'm Chuck Dorsett for Weaver Leathercraft, and we are going to make a gorgeous leather gun holster. Now, the two biggest points to this video. First off, simplicity. Let's pick up the techniques for making a basic holster, and then sky's the limit. You can make a holster for any gun out there. Secondly, we could always start with a paper pattern. Absolutely, I love them. But we're going to measure straight from our firearm. Again, variations. We've got variations in frame, barrel length, grip, automatic, revolver. So therefore, if we make a pattern straight from our gun, it's going to fit like a glove. Now, anything I use in this video, weaverleathercraft.com, or look below. We've got links there going to take you straight to our website. So with any project, first thing we're going to do is our pattern. So let's step over here and get that knocked together. Now, for our holster, we're not going to make any super spot-on measurements. In fact, aspire to that? Absolutely. But right here, we're going to keep it simple. Now, with our paper, this is just copy paper. It's not a great pattern material, by any means. But if this works, I'll transfer this over to some of our plastic sheeting, and that makes a great pattern material. All right, save us some time. I've got a center line, and I brought a line in 1/2 inch in from the edge of my paper. Because for me, if I'm wearing my gun, I'm probably hiking or camping, fishing or hunting, and I'm notorious for sitting down on rocks or logs or whatever. I want a little distance between the end of my firearm and my holster. Give me a little extra protection there. So we're going to come in 1/2 inch. I'm going to drop this on my center line, and I'm simply going to trace this out. And back to the end of our slide. Now, we don't have to be Picasso by any means. Doesn't matter. Now, let's lay our firearm down, parallel, square to the edge of our drawing, into the gun, into the slide, and let's draw this in. And there we go. Okay, that meets nicely. Well, very cool. All right, so thus far, easy enough. Now, just a couple of simple measurements. Along the bottom of our barrel, our leather's going to have to come across the top, bend, going to come across the bottom, bend, and then another bend out to our stitch line. So right here, let's come in, or come out, 5/8 of an inch from the bottom of our barrel. Same thing on the bottom of our trigger guard. Let's come out 5/8 of an inch, and let's just do our best to make that as parallel as possible, okay? Now, the front side of our trigger guard, I'm not bending so much there. So let's just give that 1/2 of an inch, square as we can make that, but at the same time, let's run that line right up into the middle of our pattern. We're going to use that again here very shortly. Okay, so easy enough. Our marks are made. Now, let's take a round corner template. But at the same time, our shop is full of bottles and caps and lids. Makes all kinds of great round corners. But right here, I'm going to use any one of these holes. I just need a simple round corner right there on the end. In fact, I tell you what, let's just go somewhere right in the middle. There we go. Good round corner. All right. Now, right here, I don't want a real tight round corner. I don't want to mimic my guard because that's going to be hard to cut an inside curve. And if we don't get that clean, it's going to look awful. So let's do this. Let's measure the distance between the two. It's right at 1/2 an inch. Now, with this, let's jump back over to my template. You notice I've just got marks on my common increments here. I think 3/4, 1, 1.5. Let's jump up to our 1.5. I'm going to drop that from my mark onto my incoming line. Just make a cool, gradual curve there. Same thing on the other side. There we go. Okay, that's going to be easy to cut, and it's going to look good, very smooth and clean. Now, on the back of our holster, I'm going to start right here, right where our line comes into our grip. I'm going to go up to the end of our slide, and I'm going to use a French curve. Now, again, it's not going to make our spouses very happy, but our kitchen is full of all manner of plates and platters that will make an easy curve. All right, so let's drop that in. There we go. There's our holster. Now, we've got a bit of a hard corner there. So let's jump back over. Drawing 1.5 round corner. There we go. Very cool. All right, so thus far, pretty easy. Now let's bend this in half so that when we cut this, it's perfectly symmetrical. So we're going to bend that in half, and let's cut out our holster pattern. And our straight line. Nice. All right, separate that out. Now down here, we're going to do this the same with our leather as our paper. If you're not comfortable making one cut, all you have to do is simply make a number of small cuts and that'll give us a nice round there. Very cool. Let's move that out of the way. All right, looks good. Now we're going to add our belt loop. With me, I'm a right side draw, so this is going to be on my right side, so therefore right here, inside and outside. So on this side, let's do this. Let's measure from the bottom of our holster up to our center line. Should be right about 2.5 inches, and it is just a bit more. So let's go 1 1/4. There we go. And now from up here, let's measure that, make sure we're parallel. It's about 1 3/8. So let's come down here, 1 3/8, and drop that in. Now with this, let's go ahead and connect those two lines. With this, we're going to put our belt loop right in the center of our holster. But this will make sense. If I move this forward, the more the grip of the gun will stick out. Makes it easier to grab. The further I move towards my trigger guard, the tighter that's going to sit. Therefore, it's not going to grab or snag on anything. It's up to you. Your holster, make whatever call you like, whatever fits best for you. But for the video, let's go straight down the middle. All right, so let's jump up here, get that out of the way. We're going to add our belt loop. Now you notice I've got 2 screws or 2 rivets here because if I only use 1 screw here and 1 screw here, this can wag back and forth immensely. It's going to look very cheap, very unprofessional. But if we drop 2 in there, very secure. All right. Secondly, I want the bend of my belt loop. Gosh, I've got ink all over me. I just hate pens, but you know what? Pencil, it's just not going to stand up. Anyway, all right. So I want the bend right at the top of my holster because that puts my grip just above my belt line, easy to get to. So let's come in 3/4 of an inch from the top of our sheath on our center line or our belt loop line. And then we're going to drop in another mark at 3/4 inch further in. Okay, there's our first 2 screw or rivet holes. Now, let's take this piece. This is going to be our belt loops, 1 inch wide, dropped in a center line. From one end or the other, let's come in, make a mark at 1/2 inch. It's going to be our first rivet hole. But let's draw in a round end punch there. Even behind that, still looks very professional. Now, another mark, 3/4 inch in. Easy enough. There we go. Okay, there's our 2 top holes. Now, on our holster, I can lay this in, and the ink, luckily here, works for us, thick enough to where I can lay that right there, right on my line. And I'm going to bend my loop right at the top of my holster and bring that down. There we go. Look at that. Perfect. That's our next hole. Now, that gives us ample room here if we want to drop this onto, say, something like a big gun rig. It'll slide right on. But nonetheless, smaller belt, very secure. Okay, so we've got that. Let's go ahead and draw in a round end there, which will drop right there. Looks good and professional, and we'll clip that pattern off later. All right, so we're getting close. Now, last thing, our snap strap. Easy enough. I'm going to bury this right in behind my belt loops, almost invisible. But what we want to do here is we're just going to mark one end. Let's come in 1/2 inch, either end, make a mark, and then let's draw in a round end. Now that's going to be tucked in there, but nonetheless, still looks good. But what we're going to do is we're going to wet form this. We're going to sew it, wet it, work our gun in there, then we'll dye it, top coat it. Last thing we're going to do is add this strap. This snap will already be there. So what we'll do is we'll rivet this down or screw this down, bring our strap across, mark it, and then set our snap. And that is a very easy way to make that a very secure fit. So on our pattern, let's just leave that hanging. Well, very cool, easy enough. 3 simple pieces, simple measurements. So let's step over here to our main table and cut some leather. Now for our holster, we're going to make 2 additions to this. First off, we're going to line this. This is a 2 to 3 ounce. Now we're using a Weaver Select leather, and I love this. 2 to 3 ounce for our liner because we're going to have some hardware on here. Snap, 3 Chicago screws, and I don't want that hardware rubbing on my firearm. Secondly, we're going to add a welt, which is simply a spacer. You've seen these on knife sheaths, runs right along this edge. In that situation, that is to keep the knife from cutting our stitch line. On a holster, it's going to give us a nice flat base all the way along our stitch line that our gun is going to sit into nicely, but also it's going to give us a little extra room. All right, so we paid for this leather. Let's use it as efficiently as we can. Going to drop in 1 strap, the second, and then our main body. And that is going to sit right in there nicely. Well, that looks good. All right, so I'm going to use a pen, which is not great. In this situation, though, we won't need it over here. Strap cutter will do that. But right here, we're going to mark it, we're going to cut it, then we're going to bevel it. So the pen's going to go away. We'll never see it. And there we go. Okay, clean. Let's do this. I'm going to use my straight edge here and here so that I get a very clean cut. But I do want to make sure I don't cut across or I'm going to waste that leather for my strapping. And there we go. All right, now again, if you're not comfortable with cutting your round corners, you can absolutely just make small cuts, and that'll give us a nice round. Again, we'll slick that, so that's no issue. And there we go. Okay, holster looks good. Now, to save us a little time, what I've done is pre-cut my liner, because what we'll do is we'll add contact cement to both pieces. I'm going to lay our holster in and then use the holster as the straight edge. We're going to have a cut that looks just like a die cut. All right, so let's move this out of the way. Drop over here. Now, with our strap cutter, wooden strap cutter, these are phenomenal. It's a great tool. To start with, let's do this. We need a 5/8 inch strap for our snap. So I'm going to set this 5/8 of an inch. Tighten that down, and I always like to give that a little extra tight. There we go. Going to draw that. There we are. Very nice, clean 5/8. All right, let's jump over. We need a 1 inch for our belt loop. So I'm going to readjust up to 1 inch. There we go. Okay, now we can come in on this strap. There we go, very nice. Let's trim these down, move that out of the way. Trim these to size. And there we go, our last cut. Okay, in fact, you know what? Let's just go ahead and trim that off while we're at it. All right, so we've got our main body, our liner, and our two straps. Now, the last thing we need is our welt. There's a couple of ways we can do this. First off, I can simply cut a piece out somewhere between 1/4 and 3/8 of an inch. I can wet that and then form it to this bend. Let it dry, and then it'll go right on. But what I like to do is just cut it already. Now, we need a little extra room there, because what we're going to do is overcut this. Just like our backing or our liner, we're going to overcut it, glue it on, and then trim to the main body. So let's do this. We're going to take our body, just one side, and let's mark this. There we go. Okay, that looks good. Now, with a wing divider, like I said, somewhere between 1/4 and 3/8, I'm going to drag this along, because this line is going to be the inside of the holster. And going to run that right off the end. Okay, so now what I really need outside is I just need about 1/4 of an inch, give or take, because again, we're going to trim that off, but the inside is going to fit that gun nicely. There we go. Okay, and on our top, what I'm going to do is just leave a little extra room there, so up there we can trim that to fit as well. Clip those two little ends out. Very nice. All right, so we're basically cut. So what we need to do now, let's step over to our quartz, and we're going to punch our holes. Now, a couple easy marks, a couple of easy holes for our strap. Now, this is going to be a Chicago screw, because this is going to be on the back. Now, for that, we're going to use about a 3/16. And I say about. For a Chicago screw, that's going to be just right. For a snap, that's going to be just a little big, but it's not really going to be an issue. All right, let's mark our strap, drop in our hole punch, and then we need a round end on this end. So 5/8 inch strap, 5/8 inch round end. All right, that's ready to go. Set that aside. Jump over to our belt loop. Now with this, we're jumping up to a 1 inch. We've got Chicago screws on all 4 sides, so let's mark that. And there's our 3 holes. All right, let's jump over to a 1 inch round end. And cut that a little close there. There we go. Okay, easy enough thus far. That piece looks good. Now the last thing is our main body. So on this side, 3 Chicago screws. Mark those. Now, what I failed to do is mark for our snap on the other side. But it's as easy as this. Let's fold our paper over. Push that. All right, there's our snap mark. Let's go ahead and pin that in. There we go. Now we can jump over. Mark for our snap on the front side. There we go. All right. And let's punch these 4 holes. And there we go. All right, easy enough. Our holes are punched. Now, you can follow me to Chapter 2. We're going to add in a very cool, very traditional basket we've designed. Or if you want to jump up to Chapter 3, at that point, we're going to start working on our edges.